everybody. It is TexAgs Rewind. David Nuno, Billy Liucci. As of right now, there is no offensive coordinator picked. It's all right, though. We got a busy weekend ahead, Billy.
It just makes let's just drag it out for content purposes. We'll have some fun. No, I think another few days on that front. I don't think it'll be an eternity, but just never-ending trauma, not just at A&M and coaching search. I don't know if this is a very dramatic one. It's just been, I think what's happening is more quiet than people want. They want the list of names, and then they can check them off, decide who they want, and see what happens. It's not that concrete. I like the way they're doing it. We're going to end up deciding, whether we like the result or not just us, but everybody, all the listeners and Aggie fans as well.
No doubt about that. We also did a round of Aggieland on the show. Mark French joined us to talk a little Aggie hoops. They need a win this weekend.
Yeah, it's big. They got it.
These next couple
are big. Oregon State and Memphis would be massive W's for heading into SEC. I know they got a few more, but heading into SEC.
Those are the big ones before, though, no doubt. And with OB, we talked about, does A&M need to get older? All that with the transfer portal and, all the high school guys trying to come to campus. All that and more. It's TexAgs Rewind. In the Rollo Insurance Studio. OB, does A&M have to get older?
Well, they're going to get older just by, naturally from all those freshmen they had that are going to be sophomores. So I don't have a problem with it, but they just need to get better.
They do need to get better.
They just need to get better. I mean, are you going to bring in a senior because he's a senior? Or are you going to bring in a senior? Well, I mean, look, if it come down like, hey, there's a guy that was a freshman somewhere last year and played well, but now he doesn't like the coach, or they made a coaching change and he wants out and he plays the same position as this senior guy, but this guy looks like he's better. Now, which one do you want?
Right.
I mean, experience is not a bad thing, obviously, but I just think they need to get better. If that senior cornerback or that senior linebacker is better than the sophomore linebacker, great. Then you get better plus experience. But if the sophomore linebacker is still a better player, that's who I'd take.
Yeah. So the reason I'm bringing it up is I was having a conversation yesterday with a gentleman who follows A&M sports, and he's like, dude, why did we think A&M was going to be as good? Look at the offensive line. They were all either freshmen or second-year players, and that is a position where you do need veterans. And then the conversation came from the offense. As bad as the offense has been the last couple of years, it really is worse when the O-line is as bad as it's been.
Yeah, that's you can probably say that about any offense,
yeah.
Right? And I'll agree that typically your better offensive lines are experienced. They got juniors and seniors. A&M's really good offensive line 2 years ago was 4 seniors and a sophomore. Mm-hmm. Of course, the sophomore was the best one, right? So,
at least in the last game, some of the easy shots were missed. Does that kind of thing become contagious for teammates? Like Henry misses an easy shot, Wade misses an easy shot, Boots, it's, you know what I'm saying?
No, there's no doubt about it. It's amazing the psychological component of that, especially when your best players aren't finishing some of those, especially bunnies around the basket. The reality is if we want to be an NCAA tournament team, right, year 4 buzz, they're tracking well, should have been in the tournament last year, probably a Sweet 16 team, at least around a 32 team, in my opinion, last year. We got to have guys step up like Wade, Tyrese, and Henry. They got to be your best guys every night. There's got to be some sort of consistency, not just in terms of points on the scoreboard, but in terms of effort, in terms of bringing guys up to their level of play, and just a maturity that they need to play with. And I think at times we're showing signs of immaturity. And, Buzz always talks about it's a race to maturity, right? We all know he loves quotes and things like that. That's one of his go-to mantras. It's a race to maturity. And I think that's where this team's at right now, is they're trying to figure out, where can that maturity come from? And, Wade, in my opinion, a lot of it starts with a point guard, a strong presence at the lead guard position. And I hope Wade, obviously he's averaging, 15 points a game right now, but just continuing that leadership role and kind of making this team his own, along with Boots and Henry. So we'll see where it goes.
You brought up Henry there, and he does look a little bit more muscular. He's put on some strength, no doubt about that. What do you think about when he and Julius are out there together in the paint, the good, and maybe what slows down the offense a bit?
Sure. Well, I think we can all agree that Marble and Coleman are two of your top five. I've had many conversations over the last couple of weeks. When I did the game for SEC Network a couple of weeks ago, the entire staff said Marble was the best player in practice all week. So I think the Michigan State transfer, obviously Tom Izzo and crew, but I think he's taken a step to where you almost have to figure out a way to play them both. One thing to point out, we're in terms of just field goal attempts, right, which is a sign of pace of play a little bit. We're 323rd in the country, so we have 461 field goal attempts this year. We're shooting, 45% from the field. That's 176 in the country. But so if we're going to play slow, which is fine, we got to be efficient. Or we need to play fast, and maybe we'll, deal with a little bit lower shooting percentage. We kind of have a double whammy right now, and I think Coleman and Marble can help solve that. The issue is in today's game, David, of course, everybody wants the four guys on the floor that can shoot, or preferably five. And so Marble isn't necessarily a three-point shooter, neither is Coleman. And so the battle schematically is going to be, how do we incorporate both of them to get the best out of them? And I think, in my opinion, you start them together and then you stagger minutes so that they both can kind of have their, moments to shine, and we can, give them some isolation opportunities. But I certainly believe that those are two of our top five, at least at this point. And that schematically, we got to find ways to incorporate both, preferably on the court at the same time, which would, obviously help on the defensive rebounding as well, which is a big component to this whole deal.
It is now time for Around Aggieland, presented by Normandy State Bank. Normandy State Bank, rock solid banking. The website, normandystatebank.com. Kay Naegeli, hello.
Good morning.
You were laughing earlier.
I was laughing. Well, I was more wondering what was going on back here, because sometimes y'all are just, always having
Silly.
your little jokes. And I was like, I feel like I'm not a part of this, and I wanted to know.
Well, I think there were some text messages that made you want to scratch your head.
Yeah, probably. If I was sitting over there and doing what Carolyn was doing, I would probably be like,
What?
Yeah.
So, what do we have?
Not a lot, but we have some things. So first of all, Texas A&M football's Devon Achane, Antonio Johnson, and Nick Constantino earned all SEC accolades as the league offense announced. Yeah. Achane led the way for the Aggies with a pair of first-team honors as a running back and all-purpose player this season, while Johnston and Constantino were named to the second team. And additionally, more honors, Texas A&M football's Evan Stewart, Shamar Stewart, and Matthew Wyckoff were named to the SEC all-freshman team the league announced on Thursday. That's all we have for football. And then not a lot going on this weekend, but Buzz Williams and A&M's men's basketball team will hit the hardwood on Sunday at 5 p.m. to face Oregon State. I know we had a great interview about that, so you should definitely check that out. And me and OB will be there on Sunday to give y'all the coverage for that. So,
yeah, well, not a lot going on.
Not a lot going on, but it is what it is. Finals are wrapping up, so I have two finals after this today, so I need to ready to be done with that. So,
yeah. Okay, we appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And let's not forget, it was also, I was told by many people that from credible sources, I've had, and I'm going to use the voice, and this is, somebody's voice that we know.
All right.
Oh, tell you what, they were saying, that's our subside. They're like, it's Grimes. It's been Grimes for a while from Baylor. It's done deal. Everybody's told me. I had 3 different, big-time people tell me today it's Grimes. It's been Grimes for a month. He was never a candidate. And not that Jeff Grimes couldn't come to A&M and do a hell of a job. He was never a candidate for a couple reasons. Number one, I don't know if he was a candidate, if he was a fit. Number two, he wasn't ever leaving Baylor. So, he's going to stay there and get a head job. So, Grimes was the guy when he wasn't, and that was allegedly done. About a week ago, we had people on our boards that everybody listens to saying it was Heartline and Samples, which was never a thing. Heartline, I confirmed 0.0 communication. Very early, it was Kendall Briles, never a thing, never looked at. So there's been a lot of misinformation. And I said all along, the correct info was Riley and Longo were definitely 2 candidates. Mullen was definitely contacted. What I don't know is how far along the Mullen things went, because I've confirmed since in the last few days here, since my Monday update. Let's say, let's get this alarm turned off. Good. 2 of them turned off. Since about that time, I've confirmed that Mullen has. Now, can Mullen be pulled back? I don't think so, but he basically is going to not coach this year. South Carolina was a possibility. A&M was a possibility. And Auburn was a possibility. I don't know who was going to offer him out of those. I don't know who would have taken him, but it's my understanding that he made it clear that he's going to go ahead and do TV in one more year at least. I'm sure he's getting paid by Florida. He's probably getting paid good by TV. Why, probably a family thing if I had to guess. I'm speculating there. Hey, husband, dad gets to be home for once. Longo, as everyone knows, has taken Wisconsin. And Riley, I believe, is going to stay at TCU or be the head coach at North Texas. So here's the Riley thing. Remember, what was it? Yeah, was it Monday I was sitting in here? Did we do a luchador Sunday, or was it Monday we were sitting in here? And I kept saying people are wrong. And that was the day that the Garrett Riley stuff being imminent was coming out. People are wrong. It's not Garrett Riley. It's not signed. Maybe even yesterday said people have been, or whatever day I was on last, people are wrong with this. And my point was about Riley. It's not him, because sometime in the last few days, Riley, and I don't even know if he was offered the job, but I do know he was a real candidate, a strong candidate, let's say. He's going to either, first of all, he wants to wait till after the playoffs. That doesn't fit with A&M. And before you say, oh, no, if you can get him, you wait. I'm going to tell you about that in a minute. He was going to wait through the playoffs, which is understandable. And the North Texas job, for whatever reason, is very appealing to him. So you might think it's not, but I'm just telling you, to him, it's very appealing. If he gets that job, he probably leaves TCU for it. So if you're A&M, if you got a signed contract and you or an agreement, I don't even know if you do it for an agreement, but if you got a contract signed, you can wait till after the playoffs. It would suck. Early signing date, transfer portal, very important time. Yeah. And with how much you were going to pay your next OC, it's like, hey, we're paying you $6+ million or so over 3 years. Like, you need to leave whatever job you're at and come. But if you had it signed, then we can have an argument. But you're talking about a guy that wouldn't agree to, doesn't want to decide until later what he's going to do. And then I think, you get into that, somebody will say, well, does that mean he thinks TCU is a better job? No, he's at a place where he's probably launching pads in another year anyway, if not in another month. And the two don't mesh. Mm-hmm. The two don't mesh. And I know it's like, yeah, if you knew for a fact that was your guy and that you were getting him, it's a different story. Then you have to go, okay, can we ride out early signing date and the portal? It would be a little more of there are ways around that in the behind-the-scenes conversation. So, but if you don't know hell no. You may wait till January, and they might win and play for the championship. And you're waiting a week, 10 days into January, and then get told, hey, I'm going to take North Texas, or no, I'm going to stay. The two don't match up. They had a deal, like Elko kind of had the job for like a month during that DC surge. But he didn't sign the contract, and then Aranda thrust himself into that. And now everybody understands. People didn't get it then. Why would he leave? People hated working for Ed Ogeron. Right. So that was what that was. And then LSU begged him back, and the rest is history. Had he just run in and signed something, who knows what would happen. But Elko was going to take the job, but wanted to finish their season at Notre Dame. Finish the year for Brian Kelly like he started. And there's honor in that, and people understand that in the profession. It's not ideal for everyone's timetable, but if you know that you're going to get someone, but that's not the case with this. I would caution Nuno, because I talked about Petrino. I've talked about him Monday. Mm-hmm. Now, as is always the case, you get the other, now all of a sudden you get the Petrino stuff coming out of various sources. I'm getting text about it from other people in media. Hey, are you hearing the same thing I am about Petrino? I'm like, I said that Monday. I said it on the Luchador like 3 weeks ago.
You did.
Now I'm getting texts, hey, are you hearing the same thing I'm hearing? Yeah, because you're hearing it
From me.
because I started it. And I also never said he was the only candidate. I've never said he is the guy.
Right.
A lot of people have reacted like as if last night I said he is the guy. It could end up happening that way. Do I expect it? I don't know if I expect that. I wouldn't say I expect it. But I said it the other day. There is another candidate or two that are interesting that I'm not going to name yet.
Intriguing
Those
names.
are still there. Yeah, to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In
So to everyone, I don't know. But remember this. Remember the DC search and you weren't here then. You probably were following it from afar when they hired John Chavis. When Kevin Sumlin had a very important, it was not all that dissimilar because it was kind of like, hey, he's got to get this one right. Defense had been Sumlin's Achilles heel. Defense, inability to stop the run, and don't make the comparison to this year because it's totally different because this defense still led the nation in pass defense and they didn't give up a ton of points. We know what it was like back then. And he had to make that hire or that he wasn't going to succeed here. And it kind of feels like this OC hire feels like the importance of it to Jimbo Fisher, right?
mm-hmm.
Well, they had a plane going out to get Pat Narduzzi at Michigan State, which would have been a home run hire. And everybody, he ended up, hey, I want to pursue head coaching jobs. And he ended up getting the Pitt job, and it was Pitt. I think it was Pitt straight from there. But that deal was done very early, and then it drug out. And then John Chavis emerged as a candidate. And everyone was frustrated. Was it Narduzzi? Was it Bud Foster? Was it, can we? And there was all this focus, and John Chavis emerged, and nobody would have believed it. So I kept that quiet for quite a while, and then started to let that out. And it ended up being Chavis. And everyone, including myself, thought it was an absolute home run hire. Who would have ever thought you could get John Chavis from LSU? And it ended up being a disaster. And because one of the guys that they would have hired, one of the combos that I wrote about was DJ Durkin and Greg Madison.
Mm-hmm.
Madison was at Michigan. Durkin had just left Florida. That was a combo that would have come to A&M. Durkin was very young at the time. Madison was like an old veteran D-line coach, co-coordinator. That was going to be the deal at A&M. And that didn't happen. The irony here is that Durkin's here now. John Chavis. People weren't going to be excited about Durkin Madison. You could tell they were already, who's Durkin? Now they get Chavis. There was a celebration in the streets. I wrote the article. They still talk about it. I started the night. I titled it like The Night Before Chavis or something because it was around Christmas time. It was a disaster. This one, the process feels similar. And everybody was focused on Garrett Riley, fans. And he was certainly a candidate. So much so focused that everybody got, they wanted to believe it. So when a rumor came out, everybody took it and sprinted with it. The same thing with Heartline, but that only lasted for like a day. Brian?
All right, Billy, let's tell the people what to do. Yeah, we got to do this again. We got to tell them what to do.
Let's go.
What'd you tell them?
Like, subscribe, tell your friends about it.
Comment.
Comments are good.
Yeah.
They're always good. Good or bad, they're good.
Algorithm. We believe in the algorithm.
You and the algorithm.
I love the algorithm because, like, when you pick A&M topics, then it suggests A&M topics for you. When you pick superhero topics, then it'll say, hey, you want to see what's going to happen in the next Batman. It's great.
Yeah.
He lost interest. We'll see you next time.
Algorithm.